You know that feeling when you hand over a smartphone to a child for the very first
Oh,
time?
yeah, that immediate drop in your stomach.
Exactly. I mean, there is this brief, fleeting moment of excitement for them, but for you, it's usually followed by this ice cold panic. It really feels like you've just handed them the keys to a massive, sprawling, totally invisible city.
Right.
And sure, there are libraries and playgrounds in that city, but there are also, dark alleys, unlit corners, and predators, and you are basically sending them in there without a map.
It's terrifying.
It is. If you were raising kids today, you know this exact anxiety. It's this seemingly uncontrollable digital landscape that our kids are navigating every single day.
Well, we're really looking at the defining anxiety of modern parenthood here. I mean, we are the first generation of parents trying to raise kids in an environment that is constantly connected, constantly updating, and fundamentally built by and for adults.
Right, the infrastructure isn't made for them.
Exactly. And the fear has evolved, way past those simple debates we used to have about screen time. Now it's this profound dread about who exactly is on the other side of that screen and, well, what they want.
Yeah, and reading through the source materials we gathered for today's deep dive, that dread is just front and center.
Oh, absolutely.
We have this stack of sources today detailing a new platform called Indre Live, which translates to inner life. And what's really compelling is that intertwined with all the technical blueprints of this app, there's a highly detailed real-world account from a mother in Denmark.
Yes, her story is really the anchor for this whole deep dive.
It really is. She's in her mid-30s, raising two girls, aged 12 and 13. And her experience illustrates how technology might finally be shifting this whole paradigm from, living in a state of constant reactive panic to establishing proactive protection against the darkest corners of the internet.
Right, tackling things like perverse messaging and the very real threat of grooming. What's fascinating here is how her situation is just incredibly representative of a broader systemic failure in how we currently handle online safety.
Yeah, tell me about that because she really tried to do everything right, didn't she?
She did. In her account, she describes doing basically everything the tech industry tells responsible parents to do. She updates the iOS on her daughter's iPhones.
Right.
She toggles all the built-in parental controls. She sets the downtime limits. She restricts App Store purchases. I mean, she followed the manual to the letter.
But it wasn't enough.
No. She admits she was still absolutely terrified. Terrified that someone could access sexual pictures of her girls, or just send them explicit perverse messages out of nowhere.
Which, okay, that raises the obvious question, right? Why doesn't a software update or a simple screen time limit actually fix the problem? We treat these Apple and Google parental controls as if they are these ironclad shields.
Right, but this mother's terror suggests they are anything but.
Exactly. So where are they failing?
Well, they fall short because standard operating system controls are essentially just perimeter defenses focused on device administration.
Okay, what does that mean in practice?
It means they govern the hardware. They can tell a phone to shut off at 9 p.m. or require a passcode to download a new game. But they are entirely blind to the communication happening inside the allowed applications.
Ah, so once you're in the app, it's a free-for-all.
Exactly. They leave parents completely powerless about the content itself. Like what happens after a message is sent or what occurs the exact moment an image is shared. The vulnerability lies in the human communication layer, not the hardware layer.
Wow.
And the sources point out a highly specific, vulnerable demographic here. Children, particularly girls aged 11 to 14, are facing this rapidly increasing exposure to really complex grooming tactics.
It's just sickening to even think about.
It is grooming, the non-consensual saving of their images, sophisticated blackmail schemes. An iOS update simply isn't designed to detect psychological manipulation.
Okay, let's unpack this with an analogy. It makes me think about those standard OS controls, like a basic home security camera installed on your front porch.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Right, so if someone breaks into your house, the camera will faithfully record it. You will have, high definition footage of the terrible thing happening.
But it doesn't stop it.
Exactly. A camera does not actually lock the door. It doesn't stop the intruder from walking right into your living room. And when it comes to kids online, parents do not want a forensic recording of the trauma after the fact.
No, of course not.
They want a deadbolt. They want to prevent the intruder from getting anywhere near the child in the first place.
That is a perfect way to put it. The traditional tools monitor the damage rather than intercepting the threat, and the psychological toll that takes on a parent is just immense.
I can only imagine.
Knowing the digital door is essentially wide open, no matter how many times you update the software, it creates this constant, low-level hum of panic.
Yeah.
You are basically perpetually waiting for the notification that something bad has already occurred.
Yeah, that reactive state is exhausting. So let's pivot logically here. If the built-in Apple and Google tools are just passive cameras, how does a platform like Indre actually function as a deadbolt? We need to look at how they are securing that perimeter.
Well, the platform attacks the root vulnerability of the entire internet, which is anonymity. Indre introduces a foundational feature called identity verification.
Okay.
And this goes way, way beyond just confirming an email address or texting a 6-digit code to a phone number. To even create an account and use the app, children and parents must verify their identity using a real government-issued passport or official documents,
Wait,
paired with a live biometric face scan.
wait, really? I have to stop you and push back on that for a
Click.
second. Because requiring a literal passport and a biometric face scan for a 12-year-old to use a social app, I mean, doesn't that feel a bit extreme or just incredibly intense?
It sounds extreme at first, yes.
We are constantly warned about massive data breaches, right? Identity theft, corporate mishandling of data. Asking a parent to upload their child's most sensitive government and biological data just to use an app seems like we're trading one massive risk for another. How is that a reasonable hurdle?
It is a massive hurdle. And you're right, the friction you are describing is entirely intentional.
So it's a feature, not a bug.
Exactly. The data privacy concern is completely valid, but we really have to weigh it against the reality of the threat landscape detailed in the sources. The internet's default state is absolute anonymity. You can be anyone, anywhere, at any time.
Yeah, that's true.
And anonymity is the primary weapon of a predator. The ability to pretend to be a 14-year-old peer when you are actually a 45-year-old adult, that is the foundational mechanism of grooming.
Oh, wow. I mean, yes, obviously.
The groomers rely entirely on the ability to burn an identity when they are caught and simply create a new one in seconds.
Right, they weaponize the ease of account creation. It's basically the classic catfishing scenario, but deployed systematically against minors.
Exactly. So by requiring rigorous document-based identity verification, the platform structurally eliminates impersonation. It creates this layer of absolute, unavoidable accountability that is just entirely absent from traditional social media.
Because you can't fake a passport scan easily.
Right. If someone is on this specific network, they are exactly who they claim to be, and their real-world identity is tied directly to their actions. If they commit a crime, there is a direct line back to a physical passport. It totally dismantles the predator's ability to hide in plain sight.
Okay, when you put it like that.
And think about it, we already accept this level of verification for financial apps, right? To prevent monetary fraud.
Oh, that's a really good point. We do.
The argument the sources are making here is that protecting a child from sexual exploitation warrants the same, if not a far greater level of infrastructural security.
It is a heavy trade-off, but yeah, the logic is sound. I mean, you wouldn't let a child travel internationally without a passport to verify who they are and track their movement across borders.
Exactly.
Applying that concept to the global internet definitely changes the baseline of accountability. But let me play devil's advocate again.
Go for it.
Simply knowing who someone is does not magically make them a safe person.
No, it doesn't.
Verified people can still be malicious. Verified teenagers can still bully each other or send terrible things. So once that identity is established, how does the app handle the actual dangerous content that's floating around?
This is where the platform moves from passive identification to proactive defense.
Okay.
The first layer of this is their contact approval mechanism. Just because someone is verified on the network does not mean they have open access to every single user.
Right.
Before any communication can occur between a child and another person, the parents must explicitly approve the new contact.
Oh, I love that. It functions like a digital bouncer at the door of the child's phone.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, the bouncer has a VIP guest list on a clipboard, and it's controlled entirely by the parent. If a user's verified name is not on that specific list, they are not getting anywhere near the child's inbox, regardless of their own verification status.
Spot on. It completely strips away the danger of random, unsolicited contact. But, as you pointed out earlier, the protection mechanism has to go deeper than just a guest list.
Because approved people can still send bad stuff.
Exactly. Which brings us to their content filtering system. Traditional settings might attempt to say blur an image after it arrives, or allow a user to report a perverse message after it has already been read.
Which is too late.
Way too late.
Yeah.
Indre is engineered to block perverse messages, sexual content, and nudity before the child ever even perceives them.
Okay, let's break down the actual mechanics of that. Does the message get sent, but the child's screen just refuses to display it? How does the interception actually work without the parent having to sit there and read everything in real time?
Right, so the system operates as an active, localized firewall. It intercepts the media or the text payload in transit. It evaluates the data before it is ever allowed to render on the user interface.
Wow.
Yeah. If the algorithms detect explicit visual material or even language patterns that are indicative of grooming and perverse messaging, the payload is neutralized.
That is incredible. So the child is completely shielded from the psychological impact because the threat is blocked before it crosses the threshold of their awareness.
Exactly. They do not have to process the shock or the confusion or the trauma of seeing something inappropriate.
That shifts the entire paradigm. Going back to our security camera analogy, this is like an automated defense system intercepting the intruder 3 blocks down the street.
Yes.
But, no automated filter is foolproof. Language evolves, teenagers use slang, and malicious actors always try to find workarounds. What happens when a situation starts to escalate in a gray area? Something a filter might not instantly recognize as an explicit threat.
The platform actually utilizes a multi-tiered approach for those exact scenarios.
Okay, how so?
The first safety net is their warning and notification system. If the app detects suspicious activity or highly unusual communication patterns or behaviors that subtly mimic the early stages of grooming, it alerts the parents immediately.
Oh, that's smart.
Right. This keeps the parent in the loop on potential dangers without requiring them to manually read through every single benign text message about school or friends.
Which is so important. Teenagers absolutely need that distinction. Privacy is developmentally crucial at that age.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants their parents auditing their daily conversations about homework or who they have a crush on. If the tool required total parental surveillance, the kids would just resent it and find a way to bypass the app entirely.
100%. It really respects that developmental need for privacy while still maintaining a hard line on safety.
That's a delicate balance to strike.
It is, and the sources also detail a really interesting feature called the private vault.
What's that?
It's a space where the child can store their own sensitive files, photos, or documents securely. However, it exists with built-in parental oversight mechanisms.
Okay, why is that critical?
Because it prevents a scenario where a child might hide concerning content or even material they're being blackmailed with out of fear, shame, or just a desire to keep it hidden from the phone's main camera roll.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The vault acknowledges the child's desire for private space, but ensures it doesn't become a dark corner where abuse can be hidden.
That is incredibly thoughtful design. Speaking of dark corners, the sources also outline an evidence collection feature, which is, well, it's a much darker but undeniably necessary reality of this whole conversation.
Sadly, yes.
Because if we look at the statistics for girls in that 11 to 14 age bracket, non-consensual image sharing and digital blackmail are not abstract fears anymore, they are epidemic.
They really are. And for extreme scenarios, this optional feature systematically gathers digital proof.
Okay.
If a serious case of blackmail, coercion, or grooming does occur, the tool can actually compile an unalterable log of the interaction. This can then be used in legal or law enforcement contexts.
Wow, an unalterable log.
Yes, and the sources make a strong point to emphasize that this happens with user consent. It's really about transforming victims and their families from helpless targets into protected individuals with actionable, legally sound recourse.
That's powerful. We have spent a lot of time on the mechanics here. The biometric passports, the digital bouncers, the firewalls, the evidence vaults. Let's pull this back to the human element for a second.
Definitely.
Because all this technical jargon is really only as valuable as its impact on the actual atmosphere inside a home. So what does this all mean for you, the parent, trying to navigate this?
Well, to truly understand the real-world impact, we need to return to the Danish mother from our sources.
Right.
Her documented account is profound because it illustrates a complete emotional paradigm shift. At the beginning of the material, she's described as physically and emotionally burdened.
Yeah, just constantly scrolling her phone, consumed by the worry of what her daughters might be encountering.
Exactly. But after implementing these proactive tools, her state completely transforms. The sources explicitly note that she goes from living in a state of hypervigilant terror to feeling calm, relieved, and immensely grateful.
In her own words from the source, she finally felt like she had real tools, not just, administrative settings she could toggle on an iOS menu, but actual robust tools that took on the heavy lifting of digital security.
And that is huge. The mental load of acting as the sole manual filter for every piece of data your child encounters online is just unbearable.
It fundamentally ruins the parenting
It
experience.
really does. By offloading that burden to a system designed specifically to intercept those threats, she reclaimed her peace of mind. She no longer has to be the constant enforcer of digital boundaries because the infrastructure itself enforces them.
And the most compelling part of her story, though, isn't even just her relief, it's the downstream effect on her children.
Right.
The sources note that her 12 and 13-year-old daughters are visibly happier and more relaxed after this transition.
Which makes perfect sense when you think about it. The psychological dynamic between a parent and a child is a closed loop.
Totally.
Children are incredibly sensitive barometers for our anxiety.
Mhm.
If a parent hovers over their shoulder every time they pick up a phone, projecting absolute terror and suspicion, the child internalizes that stress.
Yeah, they feel like they are doing something dangerous or wrong just by existing in a digital space.
Exactly. But with Indre Live operating in the background, those automated defenses are doing all that heavy lifting quietly. The girls are able to engage with social media, they can talk to their approved friends, and they can participate in the digital world without their mother projecting this aura of panic onto them.
It highlights such a critical philosophical distinction to me. Technology should protect children, not merely monitor them.
Yes, monitoring inherently breeds a dynamic of suspicion. It assumes something bad is going to happen and it just watches for it.
Right.
Protection, on the other hand, breeds a dynamic of safety. It establishes a secure perimeter so the child can explore freely within it.
It's the difference between locking a child in a padded room so they cannot possibly get hurt versus giving them a high-quality helmet and letting them ride their bike in a gated, secure neighborhood.
I love that comparison.
One restricts their world entirely out of fear, and the other expands their world safely. This platform represents a new generation of tools attempting to balance rigorous, uncompromising safety with a profound respect for the child's growing independence.
And the children feel safer because they structurally are safer. They're allowed the psychological space to just be kids online.
Exactly. It allows the parent to step back. You transition from being a fearful, reactive monitor, constantly anxious about what explicit message might slip through the cracks, to being a confident protector.
You've done the work up front. You've established the environment, verified the participants via their passports, and engaged the automated firewalls, which allows you to let them learn how to navigate digital communication securely.
Looking at everything we have unpacked today, the landscape of digital parenting clearly requires a massive shift in strategy. Relying on basic OS updates and screen time limits to fight complex grooming and perverse messaging is, it's like bringing a water gun to a structural fire.
It really is. The threats targeting young kids, particularly young girls, are just too sophisticated for passive perimeter checks.
Structural problems demand structural solutions.
Exactly. By forcing identity verification and stripping away the anonymity that predators rely on, tools like Indre Live are attempting to rewrite the rules of engagement.
Right.
Coupling that verified identity with active defenses like intercepting explicit material before it reaches the child's screen provides a real psychological lifeline. It allowed a terrified mother to finally breathe, and it allowed her daughters to exist online without a dark cloud of parental anxiety hanging over their every interaction.
It fundamentally changes the default setting of raising kids in a connected world, which brings us to a larger, maybe somewhat unsettling question to leave you with today.
Oh, I'm curious.
If this type of proactive defense becomes the new standard, if an entire generation of children grows up from the age of 11 or 12, being required to use a government passport and a biometric face scan just to chat with their friends online, how will that rewire their understanding of digital privacy when they become adults?
That is a fascinating point.
Will the concept of an anonymous, untethered internet completely disappear for the next generation? And if losing that anonymity is the permanent price we have to pay to keep them safe from predators, is the wild west of the web officially dead?
It is a massive societal trade-off. We're essentially trading the freedom of anonymity for the security of absolute accountability.
It really forces us to ask what kind of digital world we are actually building for them to inherit. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.